I feel like just to, I'll say get it out of the way, I figure we can talk about Smile. Obviously, that was a big project. It's extremely well received. It's also one that I think most people aren't really thinking of visual effects, kind of like Top Gun and a lot of other films that come up where everyone's just very engrossed in the film and they're not really thinking about behind the scenes, like how things were put together. Do you want to talk a little bit about that project? Like, how did you first get involved in it?
The summer of 2021, we were approached by the producers telling us about this new director that got picked up in South by. We looked at Parker's work, we met him, and we were like, definitely, we want him. It felt like a special filmmaker from the get-go. We started working together, and at some point, just working, having the conversations with Parker, I felt like Yuval will be a good fit for him. So actually, I surprised Parker in the tech scout by bringing Yuval, and they hit it off so well that I knew that it's going to work well then. From there, everything evolved to, it became something that Parker wanted to shoot everything in camera, obviously, and we always support that. But you know that there are always gaps that we need to bridge to say it lightly, in order to achieve the results that are on screen.
It was a ride that we didn't expect. It was a small production. Vico called me, said, "Listen, look at this." I looked at some storyboard. I was like, "Wow, this is really cool." But who's the director? He's like, "This guy, Parker Finn." I'm like, "What did he do?" He's like, "First-time director, young." There's nothing really that we could see that could show us that he's going to be able to pull it off. So I think it felt at the beginning like we will have to support him a lot. Mm-hmm. In many ways. Sometimes I think in this one is also as a creative partner, not just somebody who's just putting the green screen or whatever. It's also trying to think about the shot as a whole and how it relates to the movie and what kind of effect we're trying to make in order to, to help the story. What's feasible, what's maybe impossible, what we should try, how many takes we should cover on different things, how much we can extend those prosthetic, and sometimes just imagining the shot in a much bigger way, in a much more profound way with him. So, when I saw him, I felt that there was an opportunity here to do something bigger than what we used to do, or something that, at the back end, you just somebody remember that they need to do something. That was a big one. And it was a great opportunity. So I stepped right into it. And from the conversation, we were able to pitch ideas and get feedback, and we're really just brainstorming everything before we went on set. And then when it did started, it was just like, playing around with a lot of different things. There was what Vico was saying, it was very important for Parker to achieve everything on camera, but very quickly you understand that there's, what you can achieve and is pretty good. It's okay, but it does missing tons of parts to really go beyond and create that impact that he wanted. And I think the impact that he wanted had to be grounded in reality. It had to feel like we've never touched this, the movie, like it's untouched. But we were doing already on the shoot. I realized, for instance, there is the stabbing shot, which was stabbing the patient, and I saw her hand, not really working the way you would much faster, sort of like going in the same direction. The performance was great, but not exactly in the timing. So I felt like there's going to be a lot of like small editing of movements, slowing down, matching different pieces. So even a shot that supposedly is simple, usually what you see in the movie is like one stab and it's hidden and it has a lot of blood coming in, sort of like on a horror movie, obscuring everything. And here, as we were starting to develop that shot, it became like a very dry stab. So you could actually see, slowly see everything in camera in front of you. And it's like 20 times that she does it. And how would the motion would feel, when you pull back? We had to investigate all of those things. And basically, we ended up recreating all of her arm and the whole movement. That's just one example. So it was like when we went into post, we really discovered that, we covered a lot, but to get those nuances was, month of work, really developing it.
There's like very heavy things. If you think about it, there's like 3D doubles, being burnt,
really everything in the book.
Replacements, face tears, blood, fire, liquid, drones, everything.
Yeah, I think at one time I was thinking, like, there's everything in the book. There's every simulation from liquid fire, skin tearing, cloth, whatever simulation you want, we did. I think the most challenging thing, because of that incredible photorealistic or naturalistic, view, it's not even hyper real. It has to be real, grounded. So because many times we had to stitch between real effects to our CG effect, there had to be seamless stitch to extend. It has to be so you have a drop of blood, it might start off as an effects drop, but we will extend it and art direct it so it will fall exactly where we want to and maybe develop into something else. I think that makes it even more complicated because you're not, I don't want to give another references, but sometimes in other bigger movies, you sort of go into suspension of belief. Everything is CG, everything is invented, everything is hyper real, and you lose connection to what's real and what's not. I think there's a leeway there to create new visual language. Here, there's no escaping it. It had to look the part. And like Vico was saying, we were shot that we extended from drone into buildings. We had to recreate the whole environment in order to get those perfect camera moves. Simulation, obviously there's the fire scene, which was incredibly complicated, which is our character sort of like disintegrate, and while she's doing a very, very intense movement, going through pain and sort of like melting. and there was sort of like a shot that we developed together with Parker, how far we can stretch it, how much pain we want to see. Is it one shot and she's just going on fire, which was sort of like where we start, just one thing, or we go back to that and we see the evolution of like, what was a person becoming a melting monster, that as, approaching the audience.
You don't want that to feel like the like an end of movie visual effects sequence where it's like, here's where the budget went. Yeah, I'll quickly jump in to say that there's a show I'm supervising right now where I had an artist coming on who just came off of a different superhero show that we're doing, and that was something that I thought was really important to explain, is that with the other show it's kind of like add 10+% to the shots. In other words, you get someone punching through a wall, it's like, okay, let's add the camera shake, let's really hit those beats and make you feel it. And whereas like this other show, it's like a lot of gore, but it's meant to be very photoreal and subtle, so it's more about, it's 10% less, it's more about, rather than going over the top, you want to bring it back. And for you, like, how did you both kind of come to the conclusion, especially with the director, in terms of what is too much versus what is not enough?
Parker is a very, very specific and very detailed director. It's not like something that he came in totally unknown. He had a very clear vision, right? So when Yuval say we supported him, it's not supporting him in order to get the vision, but it's like developing and fine-tuning it, yeah? He had a very strong feeling about certain things, and, certain places actually made us work harder because he was very specific about that type of the dryness that Yuval is talking about and stuff like that. Very early on, there was a feeling of mutual respect and understanding of that we here to support his vision, and we will back him up in order to achieve that, no matter what. And we pushed very hard. It's actually very hard. Yeah. It's one of those shows that can easily be a B movie just because of the visual effects, right? Because they take you away from the reality that the director is building. So it was important for us to push that, and it was like a weekly call with Parker, and always like trying to finesse things, pitching things to him that maybe he didn't think of, especially places like the melting skin and little detail that Yuval, I remember, pitched. It's like everybody were on the same page. It wasn't like visual effects guys that are pushing for visual effects and director that trying to calm them down.
Yeah, I mean, Vico is right. It was Parker had a vision, right? He had the story and knew exactly what, but just nuance. Like I remember Vico when we were on that scout was like, maybe we can break the roof. The end when the house is burning, maybe we can also sort of like collapse the roof on the monster when it's inside. And Parker was like, yeah, you can do that. Cool. And those are the things that we kind of make our work harder, but we know that we contribute to the movie, and that makes us feel more creatively invested. So we have somebody. So it's not like we are changing the vision; we're just enhancing the vision, pushing it forward, making it more impactful. And I think in this movie, it was not about the gore. It was not about the blood spraying all everywhere. It was more about impact. It's really like what really scares you is like the stuff you've never really. They go that far. Oh no! And not only she's burning and you see she's also melting. Like she leaves her skin behind. It's like it's not gore. It's like the concept is just evolving it, going really deep with things that could evolve in. I mean, the whole movie is about. It's evolving really bad, it's like a snowball that just doesn't stop. And I think that's the feeling we wanted to give the effects as well. It's like you can't stop that. Like you never know how far we will go. Even like the opening shot when we go into Saucy's Bacon's eye, we're just going in there and we wanted to show everything. And it it's not a pleasant thing to see the eye, it's not beautiful. It's sort of like daunting. So that we could have done it just like a 2D push or some blur or some defocusing, or just go into like we've seen it a million times before. But we're thinking, no, we should see a little world inside. Like we want to follow. And then we talked about it. Like this is the the entity drives. That's the trauma. Sort of like she received the trauma. There was that concept that we're trying to convey at the very beginning. You take the viewer through her eye, but you want to see the entering moment. So that became a thing, it's like, and I think that kind of approach was on every shot. Every little thing we did was very important to develop that style. And I think when you watch the movie, you feel that it's not a horror movie like a gore. Every effects was designed. I think one of the issues with that is so embedded. I think we succeeded so well that it's almost invisible. I mean, everybody sees the monster at the end. It's very visually stunning. It was actually was made. It's a real prosthetic. The guys who did the alien, they were unbelievable. But throughout that, the fire and everything is sort of like you're accepting it and maybe something that happened on stage. Practical effects, like the guy ripping his face off. Was a shot that some people think, maybe there's a way to do it with prosthetic. Maybe I'll put somebody else's face on me and I just...
It's like, see, that's a real movie. We didn't need any of that CGI BS.
We love that. Yeah, we love that. But it's, for the category, we got quite a few comments in that realm. So these are the best compliments that we can get. But yeah, the conversation with Parker was very cinematic, psychological. The technical part we kind of almost shielded from him at times, right? Because we did a lot of 3D scans, we did a lot of simulations. That these things are technically heavy, but with Parker we try to keep the conversation in the what is the cinematic and psychological impact that you're trying to convey, and then make sure that it doesn't fall into, oh, I identify something on the screen that is tweaked.
It's hard to explain how complex something is. Like for instance that we had a drone that was doing a certain move and going into close to the wind, and then we stitched to another shot. And it's something that we planned for, and it, was okay. But Parker felt that he wanted an even different move. Like it's sort of like following up that ambulance on the road, and then just tilt and perfectly entering the window while it tilts in movement. And I'm like, in order to do that, we have to recreate the whole building, the whole scenery, the ambulance, the whole thing. We have to do a bunch of projections. And he was like, listen, I don't know what it means, but if you can do it, that would be great. So I'm like, okay, and previous that, and I felt, it does contribute to the flow of the movie, like that sense of like that perfect God camera, So we went and did that, but it was a huge effort, It's sort of like throwing everything you planned out the door.